I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Andrew Hinderaker, creator and showrunner for Showtime's horror drama Let the Right One In. Andrew, I had the luxury of not having seen the original Swedish film or the American remake, nor have I read the novel. So I was all in. I'm so invested in this story. I have no idea where it's going, the mythology behind the existence of vampires in contemporary America. Talk me through, though, the balancing of adhering to the source material and the opportunity to bring something new and unique from your perspective to this story.
Absolutely. Well, I first and foremost recommend highly all three. Gorgeous novel, gorgeous and terrifying novel that was just rendered beautifully in both the Swedish and the American film. Matt Reeves, who directed the American remake, was a mentor of mine that I was lucky enough to work with and for on a show called The Way, and so all three are exquisite works of art and create an enormously high bar. The sort of privilege of having two beautiful films come before you is there's also a certain freedom in not trying to recreate what's already been done. And for me, in approaching this beautiful novel, I saw an opportunity to honor all that really spoke to me and that I thought was quintessential about the work, while also telling a story entirely our own. So in our series, the characters, the setting, and even the stories are entirely new. But the series comes from and is a result of reading the novel dozens of times, seeing the film I don't know how many times, and loving the source material so fiercely and letting it inform really every aspect of our show, how it feels, the sensibility of the show, and above all, the emotional core of the show. The both the novel and the films really are special in the canon of horror and vampire works, because they tilt the frame to the sort of Renfield character, the helper of the vampire. And in the case of the novel and the film, this character Oscar, who's friends with the child vampire, and in our series, the vampire's actual father, who's tasked with bringing her blood and taking care of her and keeping her alive and keeping hope alive that this will not be her existence forever.
Yeah, I love it. I love the whole concept, and I'm just dying to see where you're taking this to the finale, which we will see very soon. You know, the horror genre, I would say, has seen quite a resurgence over the last few years in film and television, and I feel like it's currently really hit the zeitgeist, which I haven't seen for a while. What do you most value or appreciate about working in this particular genre?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, my very first job in television was getting to write for a really beautiful series called Penny Dreadful that
Yeah.
John Logan created and that I just loved. And John would often talk about with that series, Victorian England, because his source material was Dracula and Frankenstein, and that was those works of art were being written at a time where the world was changing rapidly, where they were entering an industrial age, and it felt like the future was incredibly uncertain. And I think that we're in a pretty precarious moment right now, where the future feels uncertain, and there's a lot of work out there right now that's deeply nostalgic, because it can be very comforting to kind of escape into what feels familiar and what feels safe. And one of the things that I love about working in the horror genre is it invites you to traffic in what it actually feels like right now, which is, as I say, precarious, sometimes scary. But there's an opportunity in the horror genre to honor how it feels, and then to, imagine journeys that could have, hopeful endings.
Yeah, there's a couple of kids in the show by necessity, as per the story. Madison Bayes in particular, I am astonished I just don't know how I've seen kids work on set before. I know how hard it can be, particularly with labor laws. How on earth were you able to get that kind of performance out of someone like her? It's so mature and it's so heartbreaking. She's wonderful in this show, isn't she?
She's astonishing, yeah. And first and foremost, how we're able to shoot this show and shoot Madison scenes and Ian Foreman, who plays Isaiah's scenes,
Yeah.
is a tribute to them. It's a tribute to our whole cast and crew, but it's a tribute to those two little humans who are just absolutely remarkable, so talented, and such wonderful little human beings. And I think that what's particularly challenging is those roles are not reduced. The role that Madison plays is arguably the most challenging and most complex role of an entire cast of challenging and complex roles.
Yeah.
And her scene partners are Oscar nominee Demian Bashir and Tony winner Anika Noni Rose. And she's holding her own, and it's astonishing at 12 years old. But it is a challenge because, we shoot a show largely on location, a lot of nights, a lot of exterior, a lot of winter, and we start in winter, but then we shoot into the spring and summer. So there were scenes, for example, the episode that just aired was at Coney Island, and we had 2 nights at Coney Island. We have to wait until nightfall because our character is a vampire. She cannot survive daylight.
Right.
So we can't shoot a moment of usable footage while the sun is out. And it became dark at 8:40 p.m. and we lose her at 10 p.m. And we lose Isaiah. We lose the 2 leads of the show. We have an hour and 20 minutes. And we had 2 nights, and we got something like 20 minutes of our episode with the 2 of them at Coney Island. And so it's a tribute to our fabulous director of that episode, Viet Nguyen, our cinematographer, Eric Bronco, our whole crew, our leads, Demian and Nika, who were amazing and such supportive individuals, and who are so gracious to understand that we're all at the mercy of these children, but above all to Madison and Ian, because it's sort of impossible to accomplish that, and then to pull it off is entirely a tribute to them. And then they're so good, it's really their relationship is so central to the series, and like you say, is really the heart of the source material, and it's imperative to honor that.
That's right.
And so I just can't say enough about Madison and Ian both.
They're wonderful. And of course, as you say, Oscar nominee Demian Bashir, Tony winner, and Anika Noni Rose. I expected them to be amazing, and they absolutely are. But this show lives or dies, I say, on the performances of these kids. And thank goodness they are as good as they are. It's just no pressure at all for you as showrunner to make sure that it's all happening. But the final question is this. This is what I love most about this show, honestly, and that's its immersive and ambitious visuals. It's so cinematic. And also Josue's Greco and Dan Roma's score. I mean, I actually listened to that on my phone. I think it's fantastic. From the outset, during pre-production, though, what are the stylistic choices that inspired and guided what the look and feel of the show ultimately became over season 1?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you mentioning Dan and Josue. The work that they did as the composers of the show is just stunning, and it's cinematic. And we have our episode that's about to air this weekend. It's episode 7. It's our most ambitious episode. It's a backstory episode that's set 10 years in the past and explains what happened to this family. And most of our episodes have between 40 and 50 strips or scenes. This one has over 80. And I mention it because it's not only our most ambitious episode, but Dan and Josue, the score that they did for it is it's astonishing. And in terms of the visual look of the show, a huge amount of the credit goes to Seith Mann, who is an executive producer on the series, who directed the pilot and directed episodes 2 and 3. Seath came aboard very early on, and he and I had a really collaborative relationship, and we would speak for hours on end for months before we even entered pre-production for the series. And I think Seath was really interested in doing two things. One was to honor some of the aesthetics of the original, by which there would be a value placed on stillness, a value placed on composition. But then also, Seath is he's a contemporary New Yorker. He went to school at NYU. He wanted to, just as that film was quintessential to the suburbs of Stockholm, he wanted to create something that looked and felt like New York, and the New York that he knew. So it was sort of taking one foot and allowing it to be informed by the aesthetic of the original film, but then the other foot allowing it to feel sort of contemporary and vibrant. And the final piece that he said, which is really what sold me on Seath, is, he said that there is the thing that he responded to in the scripts was that it was, yes, there was a lot of darkness in the show, but there was an extraordinary amount of love. And that because the core of the show is, what are you willing to do for someone you love? That's what spoke to him as a father. It's what spoke to him as an artist. And so he kind of developed the aesthetic of, he would always think about the sort of light and the darkness. And that, I know, sounds like an image that has been used before, but the way it really profoundly, literally informed so many of the visuals. For example, one of the first scene of the show is a vampire experiencing his first sunrise in years. Amazing. And he has a shot where, in the sort of darkness of the eyes, you see the reflection of the sun breaking the horizon. And that's like a literal light in the darkness. And that's how a lot of his shots are composed, that it speaks to, there's a lot of darkness in the frame, but there is a tiny flickering light that never goes out.
Oh, I love that. Like the subway tunnels, when that use of the torch just blew my mind. Anyway, we're running out of time. I could literally sit here for hours. I won't do it. We're going to bring you back shortly for our group chat. Thank you, Andrew.